Does Google hate AI content? Well, probably not. But Google and your patients have very little reason to value generic content that anyone can produce in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, the goal shouldn't be to prove that AI can write your content, because a patient can just go and ask ChatGPT the same question, and then you don't even have to pretend to write the blog.
Hey there, welcome to the Dr. Marketing Tips Show. I am Jennifer.
And I'm Corey.
And today we're going to talk about AI content, and does Google really hate AI content, and what 44,000 pages that they actually looked at reveals.
Yeah, so if you are like us, then you've probably been using AI to create content, because I think that's what the whole world is basically doing right now. But there's a big question that kind of hangs over that is, well, does this stuff actually work? It looks okay, it sounds okay, but will it show up in search results? So what we wanted to talk about today was there's two recent studies that looked at this. One followed 2,000 completely AI generated articles for 16 months to get this data. And then another one analyzed over 42,000 blog pages that were already ranking on Google. And that's kind of where we get these numbers from.
Yeah, and at first glance, the results, they seem a little bit contradictory. One study shows that AI content is losing most of its visibility, but the other study talks about how AI content is ranking throughout Google's first page. And so we're seeing a lot of this with our clients too, where we see a big uptick at the beginning, and then maybe it slows down. Then we have to go in and massage the articles, but it's a little bit contradictory when you're looking at the two studies. So hopefully today we can kind of work through that together, Corey.
Yeah, so what we want to do is, find out if this AI content, is it good for SEO? Is it bad for SEO? Does it not make a difference? And we'll kind of talk through that. So this first study, this one is from Search Engine Land, and they reported on this experiment that they put together. So what they did was they actually built out 20 brand new websites, and then on each one of these websites, they put 100 completely AI generated articles. So 2,000 articles total. And then the goal was to see, well, what happens to these things?
Yeah, and these weren't just AI drafts that somebody cleaned up and then put up there. These were actually no human editing, no physician input, backlinks, promotion, internal linking, or any kind of ongoing optimization.
Right. So yeah, they basically went to an LLM and said, give me an article about X, and then they posted it, nothing else. And so what they found was that 71% of these articles indexed within just under 40 days, and more than 28% of them, of the URLs of these brand new websites, started to appear in Google's top 100 at first.
Yeah, but around the 3-month mark, which is great because we look, when we're doing things for clients, we look at 3-month intervals, like a look back of 3 months. Around about the 3-month mark, the visibility just shot off the chart and fell. So, with that said, only about 3% of the ones that were showing up at the top still remained at the top after 3 months.
Yeah. So said another way, that these things ranked first and then fell off of a cliff. So after 16 months, these 100 sites that they put together generated over 1 million impressions, which is great, but only 1,300 clicks, which is crazy because of how quickly they kind of rose and fell in the ranking.
Well, I mean, there you go though. If you're paying attention to brand impressions, 1 million impressions, that's pretty darn good. Which that's kind of the first lessons. 1 million impressions sounds great in a report, but if 2,000 articles produce only 1,381 clicks over almost a year and a half, then volume alone isn't going to be the answer. It'll make you look good, but you're tracking the wrong KPI.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing too, and I want to point this out, is that this doesn't necessarily prove that Google punished them necessarily. It's not like that, but because remember, these are also brand new websites that had no optimization on them, in no signals that point to SEO and those kinds of things. But it does tell us something about the whole idea of well, I'm just going to go to ChatGPT and tell it to generate 15 blogs, and that's going to be my content strategy for the next 2 months. And if you're doing that, I think that this kind of gives a glimpse of, what you may experience.
Yeah, and we see clients. I see clients. I see friends. I see a lot of people doing just that. But all in, this does tell us something about that whole premise of generate 100 blogs, hit publish, and then forget about the strategy behind it. We're just going for volume.
Well, it's the whole idea of like AI slop. You've probably heard that term kind of being thrown around, and that's exactly what it is. Where, if you just go to Claude, ChatGPT, whatever, if you've read enough of those, you can spot them, within the first 30 words normally, and so can the search engines, and so yeah, it's more than that. But I thought that was an interesting one.
Yeah, I think it's a great study, and thank you for bringing that up. And I think it's great that you have another study, which is with SEMrush, and it's talking really about what's already ranking on Google. So SEMrush took it's SEMrush or SEMrush, it's however you call it, but it's a great tool out there. We use it for a lot of our programming, but SEMrush took a different approach, right? So instead of creating new content, they actually analyzed 42,000 blogs and blog pages associated with about 20,000 keywords that were already appearing in Google's top 10.
Yeah, and so what they did was they classified whatever pages that they were looking at as either human written, AI generated, or a mix of both.
Yeah, so the big finding was that content classified as human written appeared in the #1 position about 80% of the time, whereas pure AI content was only there around 10% of the time.
So what does that mean? That means that the AI content was still ranking. And as you move further down the page, the difference between the human and the AI content kind of becomes smaller. But to show up as #1, I think you said it's 80% of the time it was human written.
Well, and so it gets to the point that we cannot say, like, we can't make a blanket statement like AI content doesn't rank, because it clearly does. But it might rank real quick, and then when you come back and check it, all of a sudden it's no longer on the homepage.
Or it's just not going to rank as high.
Yeah.
Like it'll never reach kind of the peak of the mountain type of thing.
And some of the things that we've been doing is, we've got a bunch of content that ranked on. We see what kind of sticks, because you can look at the numbers, and then our team manually goes back in and starts massaging some of that content that maybe we need a little bit more human touch so we can get it back up, and then we start to see that increase again. So it's there now. It's just, it's good to have a study telling us, hey, this works, this doesn't.
Yeah, and that was kind of the next thing I wanted to mention was that's what a lot of people in the study said that they do too. 64% of the teams that were surveyed here said that they use human-led but AI-assisted workflow, which is kind of what you were alluding to there, to help with speed and not necessarily improve the content quality.
Yeah, but so, about 70%, per the study, said that AI's biggest benefit is the speed. I mean, that is what we all like, but if only 20% is improving content, then it's more of that, you're trading slop for speed. You still have to physically go in and clean it up. So you might gain 50%, but you still have to physically be in there and do something with it.
Yeah, you can't just kind of set it and forget it type of thing. And I think that's one of the most important things that comes out of that one is AI makes the content faster, but it doesn't make it necessarily better. It certainly can help, especially if you're kind of dealing with something that you're stuck on. I think writer's block is definitely a thing of the past. But yeah, there's definitely more to it.
Yeah, and I think a place that it does help you from a speed perspective is finding reputable sources and finding good studies that you can backlink to and things of that nature. So I just think, it just depends how you're using it. So I don't know which study is actually right, because I would say that both of them have a little bit of right. It's just that they're answering different questions.
Yeah, I think that's probably the appropriate way to look at it. The first study is kind of saying like, well, what happens if we mass produce a bunch of AI stuff? And And then the second one kind of says, well, what kind of content's already winning and how can we take advantage of that? So I think the right answer, like most things, is somewhere in the middle. You want to put those things together, and then I think that the message becomes, relatively clear. It's yes, AI content can be indexed, it can rank, they prove that. It can appear on page one, but if you completely automate it, then the generic stuff has a much harder time actually creating any sort of lasting visibility. So that's where you kind of need the human oversight, some of the strategy, expertise, those things. The human-shaped content really appears to have a significant advantage at the very top. So yeah, you can rank, you can put a bunch of stuff up there, but if you want to get to number one, then you still need to have some human oversight.
Yeah, and I think when we're talking about healthcare, it's even a higher standard, because it matters even more for all of us, because we're not just writing about like best lawn fertilizer or where I should go on vacation. Instead, like, the people are going to be reading this stuff, and they're actually making real healthcare decisions based on whatever slop or really strong content you're putting out there.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, we deal with this sometimes when we're doing ads and things too, but Google treats this health content as like a high trust category. So things like accuracy, expertise, domain authority, credibility, all of those things really wind up mattering a lot to practices.
Yeah, and it's not like a physician needs to sit down and personally type every blog article, but it's really good practice at this point to have a physician, weigh in on the finished product. And it's even better if you can attribute, somewhere in the article, that Dr. Smith reviewed this product and the date that it was reviewed, because the AI engines are looking at that as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think one example that kind of comes to mind there is, AI can tell you what carpal tunnel syndrome is, sure, but it can't tell you exactly how Dr. Smith can treat it in the office, wide awake, and what to expect, in his sort of recovery protocols that is specific to what someone may be looking for. Because not every physician, but lots of physicians are going to have different answers as to, when a particular type of recovery makes a difference, or when surgery becomes appropriate, or what common questions they get from patients, because they may all be a little bit different. So that's where, again, that oversight kind of really comes into play.
Well, that's your competitive advantage. AI has access to lots of information, but your doctors are the ones with the actual experience. So if you're doing wide awake carpal tunnel syndrome, or wide awake carpal tunnel surgery for carpal tunnel syndrome, and you write a great blog, and then you have the doctor review it, but you also have a video that you can put in there so that somebody's stopping on page, and then you say, hey, doctor reviewed this, and this is the date. All of a sudden, you're outranking all that AI slop that somebody's just putting out there.
Right. Exactly. And yeah, so I think that leads to kind of like, well, what's the right way to use AI for the content? And, by no means saying stop using it, we use it. But the opportunity is to use it in the right part of the process.
Yeah. So like, actually start with the real patient question, not okay, we need 20 blogs this month. Like, actually think about the strategy of what you're trying to answer.
Yeah, some of the things that AI is really good about, that's ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, you name it. If you're and you alluded to this earlier, if you're doing research, you need some keyword opportunities, you need to build an outline or create a first draft of something, or maybe maybe take a transcript of a existing physician video that you've got, and then you want to turn that into an article type of thing. All day. That's right in AI's wheelhouse.
All day, every day. But what AI cannot provide is real physician expertise, actual patient questions, practice specific examples. AI cannot do a medical review. It can't 100% be on brand with your brand voice, and AI doesn't have human judgment. Even though they have robots that look like humans, they can't actually judge your content because they're not you.
Well, and patient testimonials too. If you want to leverage what someone is saying, where go back to that carpal tunnel example, someone comes in, they get the surgery, and right when it's done, they say, I don't feel any pain. This is great. Well, that's a real experience that you can leverage that, AI wouldn't be able to do at all. So regardless, I think once you kind of get that piece together, then it's up to you, the author, the person, the human, to optimize it, link it, promote it, check performance, update it over time, do all the things that are kind of like SEO 101. Like those things still have to happen if you want to continue to rank.
Yeah, because in other words, use AI to save time because it will help save you time. It'll give you more ideas too. And then reinvest all that time that you're going to save into actually making the content better. Like sometimes the excitement is delivering the piece of content. And then the boring part that nobody pays attention to is all the stuff you have to do on an ongoing basis to make sure that content is continually being optimized. So use your time savings for something valuable.
Yeah. And I think that's, one of the takeaways is that, AI is a great tool, but it's not a strategy. You can use AI to put this stuff together, but it doesn't eliminate the need, again, for what I just said, the kind of like the SEO 101 stuff. And then know that even if your article indexes, it may not stay there. So again, that's another reason to look at these things and try and create some type of sustainable traffic source instead of just pumping out 50 blogs in 30 days kind of thing. Because that quality is going to beat the volume every day of the week. That's what these studies tell us. And again, lean into your experts. They're right there. They can give you real information versus the generic stuff that anyone can, put into a chatbot and get an article about. So you have to lean into the things that make you different.
All right. So to put a bow on it, does Google hate AI content? Well, probably not. But Google and your patients have very little reason to value generic content that anyone can produce in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, the goal shouldn't be to prove that AI can write your content, because a patient can just go and ask ChatGPT the same question, and then you don't even have to pretend to write the blog. The goal is to use AI to kind of make the marketing more efficient. You can still produce something useful, but then you've got to make it your own. You've got to make it credible. You got to make it different. And those are the things that will not only rank, but will also help people when it comes time to actually make an appointment, right? Because that's, at the end of the day, that's kind of why we're doing this. So we want to have that information there, have it show up, but then also help people as they continue their healthcare journey and ultimately choose your practice.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, use AI to remove the busy work, and then use your people to actually show, to add the value to the work that you're producing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very well said.
Great. So with that, I'm Jennifer.
I'm Corey.
We'll see you next time on the Dr. Marketing Tips Show. Thanks a bunch.
Bye, guys.
Bye. More like this, hit like and subscribe so you'll always be alerted to new episodes when they come out. And if you want information about us, visit us over at insightmg.com. That's insightmg.com. We'll see you on the next episode.